Hey everyone, welcome back to the School District U46 Planetarium Sky Talk for the week of December 14th through the 21st, 2020. And we have a really neat event coming up. It's the conjunction. Some calling it the grand conjunction, the great conjunction. And it's when two things in the sky look like they're right next to each other. And I'm going to start with this neat view of our solar system as if we're in a spacecraft. We can pretend like we're flying around. We can go underneath the solar system. We could look at it from the side, which I want to point out, all these planets that go around the sun are pretty much along the same plane. Now, they're not exact with each other, but they're pretty close. You can tell Mercury here is a little bit lower than the rest. Jupiter, Saturn, Venus, Earth, Mars, they're all pretty close. And I have it set up for today's date. And you might notice, if I move over this way, if I were to look straight from Earth, Jupiter and Saturn look like they're next to each other. Ta-da! That's a conjunction. Sometimes it's called a syzygy. And this conjunction doesn't mean that they are actually touching. I mean, look at the distance between them. If I look at the whole solar system from above, there's millions and millions of miles between them, but they're lined up so that they look like they're about to touch. Now, this happens every 20 years. It's actually not a rare occurrence, despite what you might hear in the media. It happens every 20 years. Here, I'll show you. I'm going to let time go on. I'm going to fast forward time a little bit. I'm going to speed up a little bit. As you can tell, all the planets go different speeds. And yes, the closer the planet is to the sun, the faster it goes. That's a gravity thing. But look, Jupiter is going faster than Saturn, just like Venus is going faster than Earth. And Venus laps the Earth every X number of days. Earth laps Mars about every 2.5 years. Well, Jupiter laps Saturn every 20 years or so. Here, let's fast forward. If we fast forward even a little bit more, what you're going to notice is that there is a point where, once again, Jupiter catches up to and passes Saturn. Whenever that happens, there's a conjunction from planet Earth. Now, it's not every single time that it's as close as this one is. I guess I could describe it as top to bottom because of the orbital planes. This one happens to be a really close one. There it is, 2040. Is when we're going to have our next conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn. But here's the problem. If we're on planet Earth here, in order to see this one, it'll be right before sunrise, but so close to the sun that we might not have enough darkness to be able to see them. Like the sky will already be getting bright. And if we go another 20 years in advance, there's almost a guarantee that that event is going to end up happening during the day, so we won't see that conjunction at all. It's not that it doesn't happen. It's just that we can't see it because it's happening during our daytime hours from planet Earth. Oops, I'm going to miss it here. There we go. And that should be this one. Oh, this is the next one that's going to happen. Actually, I think we can see this one a little bit. Ooh, Venus will be in the mix too. We'll probably have Venus looking really close to Jupiter and Mars. 3 planets will be visible. Again, that looks like it's going to be right near the sun line. So it'll be just right before sunrise or right after sunset, just like the one is happening this month. Here's another way to look at it in our night sky, as if we're in a spacecraft from far, far away. This is a camera looking at Earth and keeping its eyes just on the Earth. The camera's staying aimed at Earth. Earth is actually moving around the sun, but we're keeping the Earth stationary just so we can watch. Jupiter and Saturn are going to line up. The dates are under here. We're at November 20th, November 30th, December 6th, 14th, and 21st. That's when they're totally lined up together and the sun was not in the way. When the sun's not in the way, that means we can actually see it. Here's another cool image of what was happening. So Saturn is here, Jupiter's here. So this is in early November. On November 9th, they were this far apart. Now, every day, the stars and the planets that we see in the sky, because we're going around the sun, not just spinning day to night, every day everything moves a little bit down and to the right as we face southwest. So that's what this downward movement is. But what I want you to notice is the getting closer together. Every single day they got a little bit closer, and here's November 30th. And here's how close they are on the 14th. That's tonight. And a week from tonight, they're going to look like they're practically touching. As a matter of fact, if you don't have really good eyes, they might look like one unit because Jupiter's much brighter than Saturn. It might overpower it. But you might be able to discern that it's actually two different objects there. Here's what it'll look like if we use Stellarium and imagine ourselves at 4:30. So the sun went down 10 minutes ago. We're just starting to be able to see Jupiter. I'm going to fast forward a little bit. Saturn should be the second brightest thing to show up, and Vega. Vega is a bright star in the western sky. Oh, there it is. That's Vega. Here's a couple of other first magnitude stars. As it gets darker, Saturn shows up right there. It looks like it's right next to it. If I could go all the way to dark, I would aim for 5:30. 5:30 is probably the best time to go out and start watching for this. Hopefully you've been watching Jupiter and Saturn for months like I have and been noticing it getting closer and closer. And if you haven't, do it this week. Don't wait until the 21st. It might be cloudy. And the nights before, right before and after, are also going to be really, really cool. So here we are at 5:40 p.m. It's fully dark out. Jupiter and Saturn are really close. Now, if I tried to look at them in a telescope, they would not be quite in the same field of view if it was a strong one. But I could zoom in to, say, a pair of binoculars, and they would easily be seen in the same line of sight. But if I did have a telescope and I wanted to look at them both, I want you to know that you can easily see Jupiter's moons on either side of it. And if you zoom in just enough, it starts to make out that little thing is a planet, not a star. And then we'd have to move back out and then move up and look at Saturn separately with them as far apart as they are tonight. So there's the rings. So if we go back to our night sky, look at those two objects. Boy, they are really close together. Oops. Go to about, say, that's probably a good line of sight right there. Reasonable sky. Here's what our constellations look like tonight. We've got the Great Square of Pegasus. If we're facing southwest, the sun just went down over here. And if we look at the names of the constellations, they're all listed there. Deneb, the Swan, dive bombing, the Northern Cross dive bombing towards the west is up tonight. Jupiter and Saturn are right in between Sagittarius and Capricorn. If I turn my body to the left, if I want to face south, so if I just spin a little bit to the left, I'll notice Mars. Way off to the right, low on the horizon, Saturn and Jupiter, but Mars is also up. All three planets are up this month as soon as it gets dark out. Mars doesn't set until, maybe 2 in the morning or so. So that's a great one to look for. Here are the constellation lines as you face south and the names of the constellations that are up in early December. Taurus the Bull is off to the southeast. It's a letter V on its side. If we look straight up in the sky, Cassiopeia, the Queen, is up high, high, high in the northeast. Perseus is visible right there. I like to keep the horizon in view, though. So here we are looking at the southern sky. I want to do one other thing here. It's 5:40, and we have a new moon today, and that meant the moon was in between the Earth and the sun. But every day, the moon moves a little bit in its orbit, and as we face south, it looks like it moves to the left every single night. So let's fast forward. Today is Monday the 14th. Here's where it'll be on Tuesday the 15th. Still can't see it. It's way down below the horizon here next to the sun. But on the 16th, I can just start to see it. As it gets dark out, the moon is there. On the 16th, for about 15 minutes, you'll probably be able to spot the moon on the horizon next to just under Saturn and Jupiter. On the 17th, it'll be on the other side and bigger. Here is on the 18th. And the 19th, and then on the weekend, the 20th. Monday is the 21st, where it'll be a perfect half moon. We will have the winter solstice, and Jupiter and Saturn will be the closest, visibly closest they have been in everybody's lifetime. And if I could zoom into them now like this, like say I'm looking at these two through a telescope, they're going to be in the same field of view, and I'll be able to resolve both of them as planets. That's clearly a planet, not a star. And that's clearly got rings. That's a planet, not a star. These are all the moons. I'm sorry, that's a star. These are the moons of Jupiter, and some of the moons of Saturn are also visible as well. That's if you look through a telescope. If you zoom in on it and getting both of them in the same field of view, that zoomed in the sky is really, really neat to see. So this is around 5:30, 5:40, looking west-southwest. If I face due south, we've got Mars adding into the mix. Beautiful half moon on the 21st, our longest night of the year. We're going to talk more about that in next week's session. And in the east coming up, some of my favorite winter constellations are visible. If we let time go on just a little bit here, fast forward and let these stars rise in the east, you might recognize some of these drawings. We've got Orion the Hunter coming up in the east. Aldebaran is the eye of Taurus the bull, letter V on its side. The Big Dipper is skimming along the horizon in the north. And Gemini the twins are just coming up. And right now it is 6:30. And I want to do something. I want to show you that by 6:30, if I turn and look back towards the southwest, Jupiter and Saturn are gone. You will not see them again the rest of the entire night. So if you think you saw Jupiter and Saturn at midnight, you didn't. Those were probably two different stars that were bright, and you just mistakenly thought they were planets. Planets do look just like stars. You have to be out early, right after the sun goes down, to be able to spot them. So I will see you next week for our winter solstice show. And in the meantime, when you're out this week, check out those awesome constellations in the south, southeast, and make sure you watch Jupiter and Saturn this week.